You know, Emma, I'm leaving you. Uh-huh. And take my soup with you. I shot back on autopilot, and only then realized what he'd actually said. He was standing in the middle of our kitchen, leaning on an open suitcase like it was a podium. Chin up, eyes shining. A man who'd finally made a very serious decision. Seriously, Cole repeated, adjusting the strap on his duffel to look more important. I'm leaving, and I'm sick of your soups. The American Dream, Duluth, Minnesota, Wednesday night. A former minor league hockey star announces to his wife that she bores him and adds a separate verdict on her chicken noodle. I nodded. Got it. He was clearly ready for anything. Tears, screaming, a plate against the wall, but not for me just nodding and not collapsing dramatically on the floor. Emma, are you okay? He asked carefully. Perfect. I'm just waiting for you to finish your little performance so I can close the curtain, I thought. Out loud I said, yeah, go on. Sounds like you've got a whole speech lined up. To explain how we ended up in this kitchen with that suitcase, we have to rewind. Back to Duluth. Back to snow, ice, and people who for some reason think frozen water is the right surface for every sport and about half of all bad decisions. I was born in a town where the lake is bigger than most people's ambitions, and winter lasts until somebody finally loses it. Duluth, Minnesota. Ice, wind, tourists in the summer, and car wrecks in the winter. My mom is Diane Walker, and for the town she's a hero. Not the bakes cookies and hugs everyone kind. My mom is a rescue diver. The person they call when somebody walks out onto the ice with a what could possibly go wrong attitude and finds out. The phone at home could ring any hour. Diane would pick up, listen for maybe 2 seconds, her face would shift, and she'd grab her bag and radio. I'm on a call, she'd toss over her shoulder. I'll be back when I can. Door slam. White wall of snow outside the window. On the kitchen, half-cooked pasta, me, and my dad. My dad is Michael. Nobody ever put him on local TV. He didn't get thank you letters from the mayor, and no one asked him for interviews. He just came home from the plant, put a pot on the stove, sat across from me, and pulled me out of math homework and middle school drama. I remember one night. I'm 10. Algebra workbook is turning into hieroglyphics. Mom is already in her jacket at the door. You promised you'd be home tonight, Dad says quietly. Emma's got a test tomorrow. There are people out there, she answers just as quietly. I'll be back. And she's gone. Dad sighs, takes the pot off the stove, flips to the next page in my book. Well, he says, rescuers come in different flavors. She saves people, and we'll save your grade. Dad was a hero no one ever wrote about. Mom was the hero everyone remembered, except for me and Dad. I was proud of her and resentful at the same time. At some point, I made myself a little vow. If I ever had a family, I wouldn't disappear from it every time the phone rang. I'd be the grown-up who's actually home. Spoiler, the universe heard that and thought it was hilarious. I became a trauma surgeon. In school, I was that weird girl with the book. In Duluth, teenage career paths are simple. You either play hockey, or you scream for people who play hockey. Or you're weird. I went with weird. While everybody else argued about the Wild and who had the best shot, I was dragging around Moby Dick. Big, heavy novel about a stubborn captain and his whale. My best friend, Jenna, looked at that book like it was a brick. She said one day, normal people only read that if the English teacher threatens to tank their GPA. Normal people is a flexible term, I answered. Yeah, and somehow it never includes you, she sighed, stuffing a bag of chips into my locker. Here, in case you drown in your little letters, at least you'll go down snacking. It was easier to live in books where people suffer on schedule and for plot reasons than in a reality where Mom is always on calls, Dad gets quieter and more tired, and I'm just bouncing between them like an extra chair. Fights at home started as whispers, bits of sentences leaking from the bedroom. I can't split myself in two, and I can't carry all of this by myself. I'm saving people. Who's going to save us? Then it got louder. I pretended not to hear, shoved in earbuds, stared at Moby Dick, and hoped if I didn't look at the problem, it would evaporate. Spoiler, it didn't. One day Dad came to pick me up from school early. He was standing by the entrance, same face he wore when the plant announced layoffs. "Grab your stuff," he said. "We need to move." We meant him and me. Mom stayed in the little house with the nice view of the lake and the work phone. We moved to a small apartment in another neighborhood with frayed carpet and a view of the parking lot. Officially, it was just for a while, and this way it's easier with her schedule. Unofficially, the family was done. I decided then that if I ever got married, I wouldn't let someone just quietly shut the door behind them. If they left, they'd at least have to say it out loud, and they'd have to hear what I thought about it. Another spoiler. He heard. Dad kept working. Guys like him don't know how not to. The plant, shifts, overtime. No, take a vacation, relax. One day, he just didn't come home on time. The call was from the hospital. "Is this Emma Walker? Your father's here. There was an accident." Now I know the smell of an ER too well. Bleach, vending machine coffee, metal. Back then it was my first time. Dad on a gurney, face gray, a neck brace crooked around his throat. He'd been pinned in some machine on the line. He needed a serious back surgery. Of course he had employer insurance. The kind where you have to be half dead and fill out 12 forms before anyone touches you. Doctors were honest. "We'll do everything as soon as your insurance approves it." Insurance was honest too. "We're reviewing your case." We waited. For months. Dad gritted his teeth, cracked jokes, asked about my exams. Then one day his heart just stopped cooperating. I stood in the hall outside that door with the staff-only sign and listened to monitors beeping and someone calling out orders. It felt like life and death were being decided right there, and I was locked out because I didn't have the training or the right badge. I decided I never wanted to be stuck outside that door again. That's how I finally locked in on medicine. Not go into healthcare. Be the person inside that room. Med school, residency, endless call nights. It all blurred into one long tunnel. I was always chasing life from behind, trying to catch up. Mom would call and tell me about another ice rescue. I'd tell her about exams and a 3-car pileup on the freeway. We both pretended my father was an old movie we'd accidentally left in the playlist. By the time I became a trauma surgeon in the Level 1 Trauma Center in Duluth, I had a degree, a license, student loan debt, and a permanent sleep deficit. A personal life? Not really. I had a schedule. And then one winter night changed everything. Yeah, sometimes the universe likes drama. A winter night in Duluth means snow flying sideways, cars skating down the highway, and our trauma bay turning into a collection point for everyone who thought physics didn't apply to them. I was in the call room, trying to choke down cold coffee and decide which was worse, the taste or the temperature, when they rolled in a gurney. "Male, 29, MVC on ice," the paramedic rattled off. "Suspected major knee injury. Possible spinal involvement. Awake. Cussing." On the stretcher was him, Cole Bennett. Even if you've never watched a minor league game in your life, that look is hard to miss. Tall, shoulders like a billboard, light hair, a little stubble, split eyebrow, and a bruise blooming on his cheekbone. And his eyes, pissed off and scared at the same time. "Oh my God, that's him," Nurse Kelly whispered. "That's actually Cole Bennett." "Do you ever watch hockey?" Another nurse snorted. "Or is it all true crime with you?" I glanced at the monitor. Films, vitals, preliminary notes. For me, he was another complicated case. For half the staff, he was a celebrity. "Doc," he grunted when I leaned over him. Be straight. Am I ever getting back on the ice? Straight? I said. Right now, I care about you getting back on your feet. We'll talk about the ice later. He closed his eyes, clenched his jaw. We hit him with pain meds, but there isn't an anesthetic for your life as you knew it might be over. The surgery was long. Professional hockey was a question mark. Walking like a normal person was the priority. I did my job like always. But once rehab pulled him out of the OR and into the hallway, it stopped being like always. Rehab is the worst part for patients and the best test for doctors. There are no quick wins. It's sweat, anger, and boredom. Cole hated every minute. I'm not crippled, he snapped at the PT. Right now, while you're lying there whining, you're pretty close. The PT answered. He wasn't any sweeter with me. Dr. Walker, he growled one day, do you really think my life isn't over? I think you still have a heart, lungs, and a brain, I said. That's already a decent starting kit. You don't get it, he muttered. I lost everything. I've lost a few things too, I could have said. Instead, I said, I have a whole ward full of people who thought they'd lost everything. Want me to introduce you? We'll start a club. He stayed mad, pretended not to listen, and then did the exercises anyway. At first out of sheer stubbornness to prove I was underestimating him. Later because he started to believe maybe he could come back from this. The nurses built a whole soap opera around us. He looks at you like that, they whispered. He looks at everyone like that. I waved them off. He's under contract with his own charm. That wasn't true. When the pain eased up, when the swearing turned into sarcasm, and he started making fun of himself, it was hard not to see the actual person under the sports commercial face. Stubborn, funny, terrified. No dating patients is a great rule. The problem is, patients have this annoying habit of getting better. Then technically they're not patients anymore. After they discharged him, Cole disappeared for exactly a week. I had just reached the, okay, that chapter's over stage, doctor, patient, thanks, goodbye, when he showed up in the unit with a giant box of donuts for the whole team and a huge coffee especially for Doc. I missed your charming personality so much, he announced. And your jokes, and the way you say, this might feel a little uncomfortable, and then basically break people's bones. My phrasing is medically accurate, I said. It's horrifying, he grinned. You're not. He kept coming back, sometimes officially for a follow-up, sometimes just nearby, thought I'd stop in after practice at the kids' hockey school where he'd gotten a job as an assistant coach. Sometimes he'd wait in the parking lot to drive me home. You shouldn't drive after a night shift, he said. I read a study. You read something besides sports headlines? I raised an eyebrow. No, but I trust the headlines. When Jenna found out a former hockey player was regularly chauffeuring me around, she rolled her eyes. She said, listen to yourself. He's just a grateful patient. He's looking at you like he's trying to decide what ring to buy. He's going through a rough time, I protested. He needs support. He needs you, she shot back. You're a doctor and you can't diagnose this? Really? I pretended not to get it, but I did find myself listening for his truck outside the hospital more than I used to, somewhere between thanks doc and you'll marry me, right? It all just happened. First it was coffee after my shift, then let's get dinner, you're starving anyway. Then he crashed on my couch because driving 2 hours in a blizzard is a bad idea. Then he brought over extra clothes so I don't have to keep going back and forth. Eventually, his old place was just gone, and his toothbrush lived in my bathroom full time. He told me about his past, the games, the roar of the crowd, the autograph signings on the backs of strangers' jerseys, his dad, career military, preaching the gospel of men don't cry, his mom hauling him from rink to rink, telling everyone her boy was going to be a star. In high school, he laughed, I never read a single book except Catcher in the Rye, and only because my English teacher was cute and threatened to flunk me. I faked the essays, charmed my way through, and everyone said I was going places. Well, I went, straight to Titanium Hardware. I liked being around him. I was older on the inside, like he said. He was younger about everything. Somehow, it worked. A year after the accident, standing in the hospital parking lot with snow coming down, he pulled out a small box. Emma Walker, he said, looking at me like I was his one remaining plan. I know you've already got a degree, a license, a mountain of med school loans, and way too many night shifts. But will you still marry me? I said yes. Not because I was desperate to get married, but because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid to go home. We did the city hall thing. Papers, signatures. Jenna in a too short, too sparkly dress, crying. Mom at the back of the room, tired but proud. No dad. Married life turned out to be normal. And normal, in my world, is luxury. We rented a small 2-bedroom near the hospital. I lived between shifts and coffee. He lived between the kids' hockey school, the gym, and trying to invent a new dream for himself. We got a dog, a spaniel named Rusty. That was his idea. I want someone who's always happy to see me when I come home, he said. Hi, that's me. I raised my hand. You count patients in your sleep, he said. I need a creature whose entire world is my footsteps. Turns out there was room for both. I cooked a lot of soup. It was fast and cheap, sometimes pasta. Sometimes we ordered pizza and passed out before the second slice. Sometimes we went skating on the lake. Sometimes we just lay on the couch, Netflix on, pretending our schedules weren't killing us. There was a lot of exhaustion, almost no Instagram-worthy moments. And honestly, it was the best period of my life. Until something shifted. At first it was tiny. He started staying late, after practice. Then came nights out with the guys from the gym. Then his phone turned into a separate organism. Always face down, new passcode, notifications he swiped away too quickly. Got a new secret client? I tried to joke one night. Got a new secret headache, he muttered. People keep rescheduling sessions. I'm just texting with clients all day. Uh-huh, I said. Then why does this secret headache keep getting deleted from your messages? We fought. Loud, stupid fight. Doors, voice, all of it. I went to work with a knot in my stomach and no official diagnosis. I could look at a CT and say, fracture, needs surgery. In my marriage, I just kept telling myself, maybe I'm overreacting, while suturing up strangers. Eventually, I gave up and told Jenna. We were in my kitchen. I was stirring soup. She was eating it and listening. I don't like this, she said finally. I mean, I like your soup. I don't like your husband. It's just texting, I argued. She sighed. If a patient came to you and said, I've got this weird pain, but maybe it's nothing, and you saw all the symptoms, you'd order tests, right? You wouldn't pat him on the shoulder and say, let's not upset the vibes. You don't want to test because you're scared of the results. She was right. I didn't want to. Checking means admitting the problem is real. The universe decided to speed that process up. Cole and I had plans to go out to dinner. Just the two of us. Rare event, like a sunny day in February. I swapped shifts, actually did my hair, put on the one decent dress I owned. An hour before we were supposed to leave, he texted, Sorry, Em. Coach called a meeting about schedules. Really important. Rain check? Coach? Cute. I looked at my reflection in the mirror, then at my phone. Then I called Jenna. Dinner's still on, I said. We're just changing the lineup. Oh, she said. This is already my favorite plan. I'll be there in an hour. We went to that same restaurant anyway. They sat us in the back. 5 minutes later, I saw him. Cole was by the window. Same shirt he'd put on for me. Across from him was her. Brunette. Glamorous, confident, in a dress that knew exactly what it was doing. She laughed. He leaned in, his hand on her knee. They looked like a promo still for a show called He Chose Fire. "I really want to be wrong," Jenna whispered, "but I'm pretty sure that's not Coach." "Unless he's coaching very specific skills," I said. I could have stood up, marched over, made a scene. I spend my life cleaning up after impulsive choices, so I stayed put. We pretended to eat. I watched the way he looked at her, the way he smiled, the way he lit up. At some point, I realized this wasn't some client he texts. This was a whole other life. "What are you going to do?" Jenna asked quietly when we walked out into the cold. "Tonight? Nothing," I said. "Later? We'll see." The decision came the next morning. No melodrama, just like drafting a care plan. I knew her name. Irene. I'd seen it pop up on his phone. I also knew what she liked to be called, Rain, per her Instagram. Standard fitness influencer feed. Gym, selfies, bright lipstick. When Cole went to shower and left his phone on the table, I picked it up. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it probably wouldn't hold up in court. I wasn't planning to go to court. I needed facts. And there they were. A month of messages. Jokes about your boring doctor wife. Plans for when everything's sorted out. Pictures I did not need to see. I took a few screenshots. Insurance, but not the kind you bill. Then I opened her contact and texted. "We need to talk, tonight. 8 p.m., same restaurant. Just you and me." "See." Her reply. "Wow, sounds serious. Okay, I'll be there. R. Perfect." Now I just needed a wig, some makeup, and a small crime's worth of nerve. "So you want me to turn you into her?" Jenna asked after I laid it all out. "I want him to say everything out loud," I said. "All the stuff he tells her about us. No, it wasn't what you think. I want the uncensored version. And for that, he has to believe he's not talking to me." Jenna opened her makeup kit like a magician opening a trunk. "All right, dark hair, eyeliner, big lips, heels," she listed, scrolling through Irene's Instagram. "Don't tell me you expect to actually wear this." "I do," I sighed. "Fine. I've waited my whole life to put you in heels higher than 1.5 inches. Today is my Super Bowl." She straightened and curled my hair, twisted it into something that looked like Rain's photos. Foundation, contour, highlight, eyebrows from scratch. Eyeliner sharp enough to kill, mascara in 3 layers. She dug a black dress out of my closet and cinched it until I rediscovered my waist. "Hello, Rain," she said, stepping back. "You are officially the type of woman your husband stares at after hours." I looked in the mirror and, honestly, scared myself a little. "If I fall in these shoes," I muttered, "you're scraping me off the floor." "If you fall, we'll pretend you're drunk," Jenna said. "It'll just add realism." At 8 on the dot, I was at that same restaurant. Dim light, music, my heart beating way too fast. I picked a table in the shadows, back to the door so I wouldn't see him until he was right there. He was on time. He saw me. Well, saw her, and lit up. That smile used to melt half the nurses on our floor. "Rain," he said, coming up to the table. Not a flicker of doubt. No double take. Instagram hair, tight dress, and whatever he wanted to see did all the work for his brain. "Hey," I said, dropping my voice half an octave. "Sit. We really do need to talk." We ordered wine. I barely touched mine. "I thought you might bail," Cole said. "You were kind of off last night." Last night, I was sitting at the next table with my best friend. I thought. Out loud. "I'm not interested in being your side entertainment," I said. "I don't want to be the fun one while you go home to your doctor wife." He leaned in. "Emma, he stumbled, then kept going. She's a good person. She really is. She takes care of me, she cooks, she's always at work saving people, but with her, everything's just too predictable. We're like retirees. I come home, there's soup, there's Netflix, we fall asleep. I'm not ready to die in that routine. I mentally took notes. She takes care of me, she cooks, she saves people. As a complaint. Interesting angle. With you I feel alive, he went on. You're a rush. I need that. I need fire, not endless chicken broth. I almost laughed. My hand shook instead. So let's be adults, I said. I'm not okay with being your fire on the side while you live your real life with someone else. I'm not your day off. Either you're actually with me or you're not. Move in with me. Leave her. Or we end this right here. He leaned back. You could see the wheels turning. Not for long, though. I've been thinking about that for a while, he said. Honestly, I can't keep doing this. I'll talk to her. Tonight. Tell her the truth. You're right. This isn't fair to either of you. If I'd had a cliché bingo card, I'd have yelled bingo on the spot. Okay, I nodded. Then we'll talk when you've done it. He paid, kissed me on the cheek, I came dangerously close to ripping his head off, and left. I sat there a few more minutes to get my heart rate under control, then went home. At home, I washed off the fake face, peeled off the heels, pulled on my stretched-out sweatpants and t-shirt. Back to being Emma. The real one. I sat in the kitchen, poured myself some tea, put my phone on the table, and waited. Sometime after 9, the door slammed. Cole walked in with the look of someone heading into a doctor's office for test results. This is going to hurt, but it's the right thing. Emma, we need to talk, he said. Déjà vu. Sure, I nodded. He sat across from me, palms flat on the table, gave me that serious look, like he wanted me to appreciate how tortured he was. I've been thinking, he started. And I can't live like this anymore. You're amazing. Really. You take care of me. You handle everything. But I'm still young. I want life. Passion. With you, everything's too quiet. And the soups, I prompted. He brightened, relieved I wasn't arguing. Yeah, the soups, the night shifts, the way we live like old people. I met someone, and it's not just an affair. With her, I feel different. I'm leaving. He stopped, waiting for the explosion. I looked at him, at the suitcase by the door, at my mug. You packed? I asked calmly. Started, he said, thrown by my lack of drama. I don't want to drag it out. You're strong. You'll be fine. I pull people out of car wrecks, I thought. I'll manage without you. Okay, I said. Then finish packing. He looked like he'd been expecting at least one classic, "How could you?" or one tear. Nothing. He hesitated, then went to the bedroom. I heard the closet doors, hangers squeaking, the zipper on his suitcase. Rusty sat by the bedroom door, watching his person fold his life into a bag. A few minutes later, Cole came out, suitcase in hand. Emma, he began, I'm really grateful for everything you've done for me. You saved my life. Without you, I know, I said. You've mentioned it. No need to repeat yourself. He nodded, like we'd signed a mutual breakup agreement, and headed for the door. Well, I'm going, he added. Good luck, I said. Try not to slip. The door shut behind him. I finished my tea, rinsed the mug, leaned back against the cabinet and started laughing. Hard. To the point of tears. It was grief and relief in one messy mix. What happened when he went to Irene, I didn't see firsthand. Duluth is small, though. Stories get around. The script isn't hard to reconstruct. He shows up at her place with a suitcase, a head full of drama, and a speech about real feelings. She opens the door, sees the whole setup, and says, "What is this?" "It's me," he says proudly. "I left Emma. Now we can be together." Pause. Long one. "You're out of your mind," she says, according to people who heard about it. "I never asked you to leave your wife. I definitely never asked you to show up with luggage. Get out." "But yesterday, at the restaurant," he tries. "I worked till 10 last night," she answers. "I wasn't in any restaurant. Whatever's going on in your head is your issue." Door closes. He's left with his suitcase and his fire. Then comes a friend's couch, a couple nights in his truck, a lot of thinking, and finally, the brilliant idea. I should go home. She'll understand. Humans are unbelievably optimistic when it comes to other people's patience. A few days later, on a quiet morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it, and there he was, Cole. Crumpled shirt, red eyes, huge bouquet of roses. I've seen that combination before on guys wandering into the ER after bar fights. I swear it wasn't my fault, but I'm still hurt. "Hey," he said. "Hey," I answered. Rusty's tail started going like a helicopter. I caught him by the collar. "Can I come in?" Cole asked. "You can stand there," I said. "It's more convenient." He held out the flowers. I took them and set them down on the little cabinet. "I was an idiot," he started. "I don't know what got into me. This whole thing with Irene. It was a mistake. I said horrible things to you. I get it now. You're the only real thing I ever had. You were always there when I was at my worst. I want to fix it." "You want to come back?" I asked. "Yeah," he said quickly. "Yes, I'll go to therapy. I'll be home more. I'll help more, drink less with the guys, listen more to you. Let's just forget what I said. I wasn't myself." I looked at him. "Cole, the problem isn't what you said," I answered. "It's that you meant it. Sober. For a long time. You finally just said it out loud." He opened his mouth, but I kept going. "You chose fire. You looked down on soup and night shifts and normal life. You decided I was like a mom, and you needed an eternal party. That was your choice. Mine is what to do with that information." He fell quiet. "I want to come home," he said softly. "This isn't your home anymore," I said just as softly. "You walked out. I'm not leaving the door propped open while you go see what's on the menu down the street." He frowned. "I didn't know you could be this harsh," he said. "I tell people every day they're going to need surgery or an amputation or to live with metal in their leg," I said. "Trust me, I've got harsh. I'm usually on the patient's side. This time, I'm on mine." He glanced at the bouquet, at me, at the door. "That was you at the restaurant, wasn't it?" he finally asked. "That night." I smiled a little. "You wanted honesty," I said. "I gave you a chance to say everything you really think about us. You did great." He shook his head. "That's cruel," he said. "Cruel is making someone feed you, patch you up, support you, and then telling another woman how boring she is," I answered. "What I did was a clean incision with no anesthesia. Hurts like hell. Heals straight." We stood there a couple more seconds in silence. "Good luck, Cole," I added. "Honestly, I hope you learn to look at more than ice and your own reflection." I closed the door. Since then, things have been pretty simple. I work. Night shifts, ice crashes, ladder falls, bar fights. Take your pick. I keep putting people back together. At home, Rusty's waiting. And quiet, which took some getting used to. I still make soup, not because I have to feed my husband, but because I'm tired and I want something warm. Sometimes, walking down the hospital hall, I overhear someone on the phone complaining, "She's so boring. Everything's on a schedule. It's always work, dinner, same thing." I want to walk up and say, "Cherish your boring one. When you spin out on black ice, she's the one signing the consent and sitting outside the OR while they fix your knee." I don't. Every story has its own timing. On the rare nights off, I sit in my kitchen, stare at the stove, and think about how one simple sentence can turn out to be the start of your freedom. "You know, Emma, I'm leaving you, and I'm sick of your soups." Perfect. The soup stayed. The one who didn't appreciate them left. Feels like the only operation in my career that went off without a single complication. Did I go too far or not far enough? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.